Welcome to your favorite health program here on Ebru TV. We are talking about My Doctor Show, and I am your host, Purity Museo. Now, diabetes is the fastest growing chronic illness in the country. Majority of the people with diabetes, majority of them go undiagnosed. We are talking about 3.5 million Africans who have this condition. Now, despite the fact that diabetes has for many years been associated with the elderly, the number of children that are affected by this condition is as well increasing. So today we discuss about diabetes in children, and we are going to look at all aspects, all there is about diabetes in children. We will be looking at the causes, at the prevention, impact, and what parents need to do in terms of diet. You always welcome to be part of this show. You could talk to us. The SMS line is free of charge, 20268. Rather, you can also call us through the call line that will always be displayed right on your screen. On Twitter, we are at Ebru TV Kenya and the hashtag MyDoctor. But just before I could ask you to sit back, relax, and wait for this exciting show ahead, let's have a look at what's coming up.
Thank you for that question. It actually begins long because the answer to your question directly is yes. What you eat and your lifestyle during pregnancy determines a big deal of the weight of the baby. But also it starts before you get pregnant. That is why we tell women first, make sure your weight is in the right category. You should be normal weight before you conceive. And also before you conceive, take care of other lifestyle problems. For example, if you're diabetic, you'll have it addressed before you conceive. So that's one way of making sure you're optimized, or your health is optimized before you begin the journey. Now, once you begin the journey of pregnancy, there is the myth that you eat for two, which is not exactly true. The key thing is your baby is able to extract nutrients from you with a normal diet. Remember, a lot of what we take under normal circumstances goes to waste. So your body just needs to increase a little fractional amount here and there from the nutrients, and you're okay. So yes, you don't need to eat for two. You also need to engage in reasonable amount of exercise. By this I mean walking, having stretch exercises, but most importantly, we say swimming is a perfect exercise in pregnancy. Of course, you avoid things like running, weightlifting, and heavy cardio. Yes. There is a whole myriad of issues that will affect the baby's weight, but the most important to begin with is the weight of the mother. 2 is your sugar control status. For example, if you are taking too much of sugars and restricted sugars and high fat foods, then this tends to increase the amount of sugar that is available to the baby, and generally that would increase the weight of the baby. Okay? But generally speaking, if your body naturally, before pregnancy was optimized, then it's also able to control. Even if you took a bit more fatty foods on some days, then your body is able to control the sugars within a tight range, and therefore that may not necessarily lead to overweight babies. But that said and done, I think a lot of people worry that their baby is too big and therefore that needs a CS. We must add that the estimate of the weight of the baby is a very inexact science. So a lot of the time, you may need to actually go through the labor before you can say your baby is too big. You have seen times when you estimate and think the baby is too big, and yet they come out small. There is a lot going on in the womb. There is water, there is placenta in addition to the baby. So don't use the tummy size to judge the size of your baby.
And to help us with that discussion in studio, we have Dr. Anjum Omar. She is a pediatrician at Kenyatta National Hospital. And remember, you're always welcome to be part of this discussion. Talk to us. The SMS line is 20268. The call line will be displayed on your screen. You can also talk to us through our social media platform. On Twitter, we are at Ebru TV Kenya, the hashtag MyDoctor. Once again, my name is Purity Museo. Dr. Anjum, welcome to this show.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for making time for us and arriving really on time.
Thank you.
All right, so we are talking about diabetes for children.
Yeah.
First, what is diabetes?
Okay, diabetes is a condition whereby the blood sugar fasting and after meals is
Right.
usually high.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
like if the fasting blood sugar is above 7 millimoles,
Okay.
and blood sugar after meals, 2 hours after meals, is above 11 millimoles,
Okay.
then then we consider that that child could be having diabetes. Yeah.
And maybe before we get into why it's important or how important it is to have your sugar levels controlled, maybe where are we as a country in terms of the numbers of children that are we seeing the numbers increasing for children with diabetes, and why?
Actually, yes. Before, there was no awareness.
Okay.
And that's why we used to see children who would come with complicated, like they come in DKA. DKA is one of the complications of diabetes.
Okay.
And because previously there was no awareness, and these children would be diagnosed as pneumonia or malaria and then would be discharged home.
Okay.
They would die, actually. So they would go unrecognized.
Okay.
But right now, because of awareness throughout the country, we have World Diabetes Day, whereby we talk about diabetes, the importance of checking sugar. And we also train doctors, nurses. And right now, we are really picking up the number of cases of diabetes. I don't think it's gone up or down, but maybe it was unrecognized before and mismanaged. That's why we were not picking up diabetes. But right now, we are really seeing the cases
Increasing. And you are a doctor, a children's doctor,
Yes.
and maybe from the largest referral facility in the country, where most of the referrals are taken to Kenyatta Hospital.
Yeah.
Maybe from your day-to-day interaction with the children, how many, maybe roughly, how many children do you deal with in a day, that, or how many cases for diabetes do you diagnose in a day?
Okay, in a day, it's hard to say that I see 1 or 2 cases of diabetes, but I'm very sure everywhere in the country, because we have very many facilities.
Right.
And they are making the diagnosis at least in a week, 1 or 2 cases of diabetes.
Okay, and initially diabetes was a condition that was really associated with the elderly, but now we are seeing from statistics the numbers for children is increasing. Why is it so?
Yeah, the diabetes for the elderly is different from the diabetes for children. Children usually have diabetes not because of obesity. Usually adults have diabetes because of obesity, but children have diabetes because of lack of insulin.
Okay.
They stop producing insulin. Maybe they get an infection.
Okay.
Most of the time it's a viral infection, like either a flu, a cold, or mumps. Such infections actually start destroying the pancreas. We call that it's an autoimmune disease. Means the body starts fighting by producing the antibodies against the pancreas, and these are the ones now which start destroying the pancreas, which produce the insulin.
Okay.
So insulin is not produced, and that's why the blood sugars go high.
All right, and you categorically saying that the diabetes for children has nothing to do with obesity, right?
Exactly.
All right, so
yes.
what is this insulin and why is it important? Maybe what is its importance in a child's body?
Okay, insulin is produced by an organ called pancreas.
Right.
And that insulin is the key to the cells, whereby it takes the blood sugar and transports it to the cells, so that we get energy. Because when we are doing an exercise, or when we are using our body or our mind, we need energy. And that energy comes from the glucose. And that glucose, the insulin, glucose needs insulin to be transported into the cell, so that we start so that our body uses that glucose.
All right.
So if there is no insulin, then there is no, that key is not there. So if the key is not there, that door is not opened, so the glucose cannot go into the cell for energy.
All
So
right.
what happens? The glucose starts building up in the blood,
Okay.
and that's why it causes
Yeah, and
diabetes.
just to make our viewers understand, insulin and energy, insulin and glucose, maybe why the importance of energy in a child's body, maybe you could break it down for us. When a child does not have this insulin, or which contributes into the child's energy, maybe what are some of the complications that can come with this defect?
Yeah, you see, if the child does not get proper energy, the child will be lethargic. The child will not want to play. The child will feel fatigue all the time.
Right.
And the child will just be, once a playful child,
Okay.
you will see the child is not playing, is not doing well in school, because even the brain is not using up, there's no energy for the brain, because for us to think, for us to use our brain, we need energy. So if that sugar is not there, if that blood sugar is not there into the cell,
All right.
so we can't even think well. So these children, they get headaches. They don't want to study. They are very lethargic. They are fatigued. They just want to lie down. They just want to sleep. So those are some of the symptoms which can come up if the blood sugar is high, and like the body is not using up energy.
Okay.
Because the body starts using up energy from other source.
Right.
Like the muscles, the fat, yeah, and that
Okay.
is not good energy.
Right.
That is bad energy.
Right,
Yeah.
bad energy and good energy. We'll be looking at that.
Yeah.
But just in case you're joining us for the first time, you're right on time for My Doctor Show. My name is Purity Museo, and today we are talking matters children and diabetes. And we have Dr. Anjum from Kenyatta National Hospital. She is telling us why it's important to have actually lifestyle changes for a parent. Here is the show. Just continue talking to us. The SMS line is free of charge, 20268, and the call line will always be displayed on your screen. You can also interact with us through our social media platform. On Twitter, we are at Ebru TV Kenya, the hashtag MyDoctor. Doc, you've talked about bad energy and good energy. Please, what's that?
Okay, good energy is the energy which is brought about by glucose. Okay, because glucose gives us a lot of energy, and we feel we are energetic. Like when you want to run, you will feel energetic. We are running.
Right.
But bad energy is the one which is derived from the fat and the muscle. Is not the amount of energy is not high. It's very low.
Okay.
It's like maybe around if glucose is giving like 26, the fat is giving 3.
Okay.
So you can imagine. So you need a lot of that energy.
Right.
Yeah. So that's why we said that's bad energy, because that's not the normal way of producing energy in the body.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we are talking about diabetes. I understand we have 2 kinds,
Yeah.
type 1 and type 2. Which
Actually,
one?
we have 3 kinds of
Okay.
diabetes.
All right.
We have first the type 1 diabetes, which is insulin dependent diabetes, children who are dependent on insulin. And then we have the other type of diabetes whereby the insulin is there, but there is a defect, which we call that MODY, maturity onset diabetes of young. We usually see that in adolescent teenagers, yeah, whereby their sugar level is not very high, especially the fasting is okay, but after 2 hours after meal, their fasting, their post-meal blood sugars go high.
Okay.
Yeah, so those are some of the types of diabetes.
Okay.
But that one we usually see in adolescent, and especially if there is a family history of diabetes. The mother could be a diabetic, grandmother could be a diabetic, and if the child is a diabetic, then we need to think in that
line, right.
yeah.
And you've talked about type 1, type 2, and type 3. Which one affects children?
Type 1 is the one which usually affects children, 90 to 95%. children have type 1 diabetes.
Okay, and maybe in a simpler language to our viewers, what causes type 1 diabetes for children?
Yeah, as I said, the destruction of pancreas. Once the pancreas, the part of the pancreas which secretes insulin, if that part of pancreas is destroyed somehow, maybe by an infection, because as I mentioned, infections like mumps or flu, cold can produce antibodies, and that antibodies can destroy the pancreas. So insulin is not produced.
Right.
So if insulin is not produced, lack of insulin causes high glucose in the blood, and that causes diabetes.
And because you're saying it has nothing to do with obesity, so maybe what are some of the factors that could contribute to the, can I call it distraction or disturbance of the pancreas so that it fails to produce insulin?
Yeah, okay, that is yet to be discovered, because it has not been, many studies have been done, but none has revealed who is susceptible or who is not.
Right.
So any child can be susceptible to diabetes, because we wouldn't know who can develop these antibodies or who wouldn't develop antibodies.
Right, and what age factor or fraction are we talking about? Maybe which children, as at what age do we expect these cases? Or can a child be born with diabetes?
Yes, now that is a different kind of diabetes. They are not born with type 1 diabetes.
Okay.
Yeah, that diabetes, we call it neonatal diabetes. But the type 1 diabetes, it usually comes after 6 months. So the earliest is 6 months of life. So a child at 6 months, as early as 6 months, can get type 1 diabetes.
All right, and maybe because you're talking about after 6 months, does it have anything to do with the mother, what the mother maybe feeds on during pregnancy, or the kinds of activities the mother participates in during pregnancy, or it just develops?
No, it has nothing to do with the mother.
Okay.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with the mother or what the child or the mother fed on.
Right.
Maybe that can cause a big baby.
Okay.
If the mother is diabetic,
Right.
she can deliver a big baby. But it has nothing to do with type 1 diabetes.
Right. And just to emphasize on what you're asking, Richard from Homa Bay is saying, "Hi Purity, my doctor, the show is amazing. Thank you so much." So does diabetes, is it caused by lack of enough energy? If, for example, the child, we will be looking at the symptoms, but first just answer what he's asking.
No. It is nothing to do with lack of energy. Lack of energy may be one of the symptoms of diabetes, but it does not cause.
It's not the cause.
Diabetes.
It's basically disturbance of the pancreas.
Exactly.
And you've said the cause of the disturbance is not yet known.
Is not yet known.
Right.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's get to the symptoms for diabetes for children. What are some of the symptoms that a child with diabetes can express?
Okay, some of the symptoms are they drink a lot of water, they pass a lot of urine. Like if a child who has stopped passing urine at night now starts passing urine at night. And they lose weight, they start losing weight.
Okay.
Like they lose, there's a marked weight loss, not just a loss of like 200 or 500 grams.
Right. They
lose like 5 to 10 kgs in 1-2 months.
Right.
There's a very marked weight loss. Yeah, and then there is fatigue, as I said, because of lack of energy.
Yes.
Yeah, there is fatigue.
So, Doc, you've talked about urination, frequent urination, taking a lot of water. But when you look at the urination, don't you think it's normal for toddlers? Some of them do it on beds. So how do you tell?
Yes, you know, that's what happens when we see a child urinating, maybe during cold. We say this is cold weather, that's why the child is urinating.
Okay.
But let's not take this as simple as that. Yeah, it could be beyond the cold weather.
All right.
Yeah.
Yes, and we are here on My Doctor Show. We are talking about diabetes in children and some of the preventive measures for that. But just remember, we welcome you to be part of this show by calling us in. The call line is 07, or the call line will be displayed on your screen, or rather it's 0791 478-990, or you can simply send us an SMS via 20268, or talk to us via our social media platform. On Twitter, we are at Ebru TV Kenya, the hashtag MyDoctor. I forgot to tell you that you can